Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andy here, and today we've got a pretty exciting budget keyboard to review. Here we have the MK68 from Gamakay, which is sent by Banggood as a review unit. It's my first review unit ever, so I'm pretty keen for this. The MK68 comes shipped in a very stock standard cardboard packaging, with the Gamakay logo on the front. There's a brief overview of the features, but just a heads up, it only comes in a wide variant for now. I personally went with the white option with Gateron optical brown switches. And opening up inside the box, super simple. First, a set of instructions for hotkeys. But the good thing is that almost all of these options can be accessed by holding the function key, and the features themselves are labeled on the keys. The keyboard itself comes wrapped in some plastic. We'll open that in a second. Under the keyboard is a solid braided color matched USB A to C cable, and I really love the quality of this one. There are also some accessories such as the keycap puller and switch puller. Honestly, nothing too great about these, but they'll do the job. I'd recommend getting a nicer switch puller, which only costs about $5 extra. They've also included 4 other Gateron optical switch variants for you to try out, so that's nice. Now let's look at the main event. So straight out of the plastic, I have to say, the MK68 is incredibly clean. The keys are nicely printed, and I really enjoy the texture of the body, which is smooth but matte. I'm personally not a fan of the shiny finish a lot of these pre-builds come in. The keyboard does come in a 68 key configuration, as its name suggests, and it's also called a 65% layout. This really means that there are arrow keys and also some page control keys. USB-C is the connection at the rear, which is of course the most common connector as of now. And on the bottom are some adjustable feet, each with 2 configurations, one for a moderate or 2 for a higher typing angle. The keyboard also has N-key rollover, which means there's not going to be any issues with multi-key presses, as well as IPX4, which is resistant to light splashes. Now let's dive into the inners of the keyboard. So first off, I believe the keycaps are the main selling point of this board. These are pudding keycaps, which means that the top of the keycap is either white or black opaque plastic, and the lower half is translucent, which allows the RGB light to shine through. I think these are a huge boost to the RGB keyboard aesthetic, especially since these have been manufactured fairly well. The legends on it are crisp, the light shines through evenly, and the keycap thickness when compared to other PBT keycaps is almost basically the same. The good thing is that if you're not feeling it or you want to be a bit more adventurous, you can always swap them out for other Cherry MX compatible keycaps. Now speaking of swapping out, the optical switches here are also hot swappable. Now while it wasn't the easiest taking these out using the included puller, you shouldn't have any problems if you just give it some time. Now one thing to be aware of is that these are optical switches, which means that the mechanical switches that are more common won't fit into the PCB. But we can put in other optical switches, so here's a blue optical switch that was included inside the same board. So I wouldn't put hot swappability as a main focus for the keyboard, mainly because you won't have many optical switches lying around. Now speaking of optics, the colors here, especially when shining through the pudding keycaps, are really nice. You've got a total of 6 themed lighting effects, and it's really as simple as holding down function, then pressing tab to cycle through these. Let's show you some of these. Now onto the stabilizers. I was also quite impressed by the quality of the lubing job done on these stabs from the factory. You can tell that they've lubed both the housing and the wires when looking closely, and there's actually no rattle when using them straight from the box, as you can hear from this clip. Now let's disassemble the keyboard so we can have a look under the switches. So after removing 5 screws on the top, the plate and PCB fall out quite easily. As these are optical switches, just be wary that the plate and PCB will come apart quite easily as there are no pins. We can see that this keyboard is also just a simple tray mount with some space inside the case. So let's go ahead and fix that. Because I want to keep this board as close to stock as possible, we're not going to be relubing the stabilizers or the switches, but that can be done fairly easily as well. Now inside this case, let's use some leftover foam that I have, but if you've got some higher density foam, that would definitely do a better job here. Then on the bottom of the PCB, we'll do the trusty tape mod. I'm just going to use 3 layers of masking tape here, and that should do a good job in lowering the sound. Also be sure to make holes in the standoffs here, which I forgot to do initially. And now here I'm just going to retrace and reassemble everything, and let's have a listen. Overall, I was pretty surprised at how much I enjoyed the MK68 at this budget price point. Despite having purchased, other entry-level keyboards at even slightly higher prices, I would actually definitely have chosen this if it was available back then as my first budget option. It's not only cheaper than the competitors like An Pro and Docky keyboards, but it also doesn't skimp on any of those essential features, and comes stock with shine-through pudding keycaps. Usually if you purchase these separately, which most people do, the keycaps would cost an extra $20 to $35 from those major retailers, so I see this as a huge plus. So for the price, what you're really getting is the pudding keycaps, optical switches, some flexibility to customize keycaps, and overall a very solid RGB keyboard. So really, I'd recommend this to mostly anyone who's just getting into the hobby, but if you're looking to dive a little deeper and test out different mechanical switches, I think maybe you want to go for something a little bit more custom and a little bit more pricier. Now that's going to be all for this review. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Hit the sub button, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Laters!